So I wanted to create this like off the cuff video because yesterday while I was kind of putting together um, basically an automation, I noticed that Home Assistant finally has their own integrated AI. Like they've had like pieces of this before, but now truly like they have an AI that you can call within an automation and actually get not just interesting information back, like dynamic information, but you can actually have it to give a structured output back, like truly structured output in the same way that ChatGPT and Gemini gives you tools. And I think Olama also does that too as well. But again, Home Assistant now has their own version natively, which is fantastic. It's what I've always wanted because, at least from my perspective, it now lets me use less third party features and lets me use Home Assistant more. And so, by all means, like, Home Assistant team is doing a fantastic job. So that's not what I wanted to talk about. I actually wanted to talk about what this means for you and what this also looks like in general as we're creating automations. And I think this is going to be a very fun experiment that I want to show you guys. So essentially here, let's change this up real quick. I have this automation. Let me zoom in a bit. Let's come here. Cool. I have three versions of an automation. One that uses the Home Assistant AI, and then two of these versions, version B and C, uses the AI intent nodes that I've created a while back. It's using the advanced version and the simplified version. I'm going to go over all three as what this means for you while you're creating automations. Now, in general, this automation is really simple. It is I trigger it manually, and I basically ask it, hey, let the Home Assistant environment ask me if I want to turn my lights off and on. So my home will say, hey, let's switch this up. So my home will say, hey, do you want to turn on your lights? And then I will answer yes, no, or I'll give some kind of answer, right? It'll just be as normal and as human as possible. And the home should hear the answer and be able to choose the correct thing to do. Now, right now, I've kind of boxed it in so it's just going to choose yes or no, like those are its only real choice. But again, I'm gonna be very human about it and see how it responds with various different ways of me saying yes or no. And here's the thing that we're testing. Out of these versions, there's three ways. Let me change the screen again. Out of these versions, there are three ways in which we can actually set this up. So I'm going to start with Home Assistant's version, which I'm pretty excited about. They have now, you're looking at Node Red. Don't feel bad or don't feel discouraged. You can do this within Home Assistant as well, but it's very easy to see what I'm talking about when I splayed out this way with nodes, because then you see the complexity as to what we're dealing with. So complexity wise, we're dealing with one, two, three, four, five, six nodes. I'm not counting the debug node. That's just for debugging purposes, but there's six nodes that is required. One for basically one trigger, and then the rest of these are for actually handling the automation itself. So we'll give this a complexity of six. Now, with that being said, I'm going to run through the automation so you can kind of hear and see it, and then we can see how this works out. So I'm going to press it. Let's see.
Hi, Michael. Would you like me to turn on the office lights?
No thanks. I think they're already on, so that's fine.
Got it. If you need anything else, just let me know.
I don't know if you guys could hear that, but it basically said like, got it. Let me know if you need anything else. And it did not. Here, I'm going to show it to you. You can see that this triggered, and then it triggered here. None of this stuff here, beyond this, Michael said yes, none of this stuff went off. You don't see anything in the debug, meaning that it recognized that it said no, or that I said no. I answered in the negative, and it just did not go forward, which is fantastic. And looking at it, this is what Home Assistant requires when you set this up. It seems kind of messy, but again, you would have to do this anyway within Home Assistant using YAML. This is just a JavaScript version of that. So there's a task name, the instructions, the user just asks if the light should be turned on for them, and this is their response, and then I pass in the response right here. This is calling the AI task or the entity that's used for the AI. I think mine's is using ChatGPT. And then I'm telling it, here's the structure of the response that I want you to give me back. I need something that has did accept, and that's going to be of a type Boolean, and this is how I'm describing it. This is the person accepting or declining, and this is a required field, and then I need you to give me a response. and it needs to be a friendly reply, and this is also required. So when this actually goes and fires off, the information that comes out of this interpret response is going to have those two things. It's going to have an object that has did accept, and it's going to be true or false, and it's going to have a response. And that response is what we played here. So this data response, that's what we heard. If I had a debugger at this point, you would be able to see what that is. And matter of fact, I'll add it here just so, and I'll add it for the other ones as well, just so you can see that I'm not messing around. So we'll add that here. Oh, okay, copy. That was unintentional. All right, paste. And then we want to add this one here. And then we're going to want to add this one here. So we'll do that. Deploy. All right. I'll run this one more time.
Hi, Michael. Would you like me to turn on the office lights?
No thanks. I think I'm good.
Alright, if you change your mind, just let me know.
Awesome. So as again, you see that we don't have any information there, and here's the response data, and then you can see did accept is false, and then the response. This is fantastic. Like this is clean. This is very clean. I like it because I just have this one node, that interpret response node, and I'm able to have everything that I need just kind of happen. Now, I'm going to go to now prior to Home Assistant doing that, I had to create the AI intent nodes, which basically I created like 6 or 7 different nodes that lets me split up the responsibilities and kind of create a more scalable way of handling this. So when we take a look at it, looking at, let's say, version B now, this is like this confirm, deny, this chat, this call intent. All of this is part of the AI intent series that I've created, and it lets me do exactly what this one node did, but it separated a lot of the concerns so that way I can make a more scalable and dynamic automation. And what do I mean by that? Essentially, if I am creating an automation that is involved, let's say think of Jarvis, something that can handle lights and locks and windows and blinds and vacuums and whatever the case is, having a lot of those individual nodes that Home Assistant supplied probably won't work as well. Like, especially if you want to interconnect a lot of things, it won't work as well, and it gets very hard to maintain. But then by having, let's say, a chat node that lets me shove in information, and then based off of the information that it shoves in, if the AI decides to do one thing or another, like you give it 10 options, having the ability to trigger 10 different nodes becomes very useful. So that's where the AI intent kind of shines in that aspect. And this is by no means a way, I'm not trying to sell you on handling this. If it was up to me, I would rather Home Assistant do all of this, and I no longer have to maintain it because there's bugs. I have things to do, and I don't want to have to maintain an open source GitHub project. So that being said, still, I want to explore using AI within my smart home, so the AI intent nodes does the job. But let's see what that looks like with version B.
Hi, Michael. Would you like me to turn on the office lights?
Yes, please. I need you to turn on the lights. They're off right now.
Sure, I'll turn on the lights for you.
Okay. So as you saw, the lights turned on, and here is the flow. So here's 240. So we see here that it's had did accept is equal to true, and it responded in the positive. What is this other one here? I'll ignore that one for now. I'm not sure why I did that. So in any case, you saw that the lights did turn on, so I was able to hear the request and kind of handle all of that, and it responded in the affirmative. Essentially, this is doing the same exact thing that this intent response did, but I've split out all the concerns. So I'm telling it, hey, the user's asking if the light should be turned on or off. I pass it the response that I give it, and then from that response, it gets to choose it. I told it to use this as a way to determine whether or not what to do. Basically, is the user answering affirmatively or negatively? And then based off of that, I can go through and respond and as well turn on the lights. So this is the more advanced way, and a lot of that definition sits here in this register intent node where I define out like that object of here's the did accept, here's the response, these are the types that we're expecting, a string and a boolean, and then this are what's required. Again, we had to still do this within the one that a Home Assistant gave us, so we still have to define something, and theirs is it's just about the same size, maybe a little bit more lengthy, but again, this is something that we have to do. So this works, and this does separate a lot of concerns. And what's cool about this as well, because we have this call intent, if we had a bunch of other functions, so in this case, right, if we've set up, I'm gonna show you, we have all these different tools, these things that the AI can do. I can select all of them. And then when the AI responds, when I talk to the AI, it can choose from all of the stuff that's here and it'll choose the right one. And when it hits this call intent, it will find the right node and call those set of automations, which makes it way more powerful than this because we don't have any mechanisms to do that. This would become a very cumbersome and difficult to maintain node in order to replicate what this does naturally. So, again, pros and cons, but I want to just show you the power of what it means to have AI within your automations. The last one, if let's switch this back up. So, you see for both versions A and B required that we had to give it some structured response. We had to feed it some JSON or YAML or something to say, hey, when you respond, you need to respond and pass back these particular objects or values, and we expect it to look like X, Y, and Z, and just give that to us, and then we'll handle the rest. That works, but I personally hate having to do that. Like, I get why, and it makes sense. It makes things more robust, more repeatable, but I'd prefer not to have to do that. So, how can I do that? And here's the version C, the simplified way. And with this one, instead of having to give, let's say, how with this registered intent, we have it in advanced mode, and we're giving it the JSON of what to expect. I am instead just giving two simplified nodes. So right now we have advanced mode as false for both of them, but you can see the description is different. So run if the user answers a request the in the affirmative. I wrote that poorly. And then for deny, basically run if the user answers a request in the negative. Again, both are in a simple mode. And for the chat, we just tell it, hey, you're choosing between these two, right? We give it the multiple different tools that it can call. This is kind of talking about what I meant earlier about being able to summon multiple different automation tools. So now that we have those two nodes or registered intents, we can actually let the AI choose what to do. We give it the response. So I'm going to respond to it, and then it will say, okay, I have these two tools to deal with. Let me just do what I can do, and it will choose between the two, which is pretty awesome. I actually am not sure how it's going to announce the information, but we'll see that through. Let's see. Yeah, this is incorrect. So actually, I'm going to walk through this with you because this is kind of set up wrong. I expect it to fail, but we're going to fix it and you get to see how all of that works. So let's go to this and let's run it. I'm going to turn off actually, I'll leave my lights on for now and I'll tell it no. So 1 second.
Hi, Michael. Would you like me to turn on the office lights?
No, thank you.
That's perfectly fine. If you need anything else or change your mind, just let me know.
Ooh, that did not go the way I expected it, but it responded back quite fine. So let's take a look. So 240. So we see here that it responded back, and here's what the payload looks like. So it chose deny, and you heard I told it no, thank you. And it says that's perfectly fine. It did accept this to false. So it's giving all of that stuff back. And technically, it shouldn't have done that, which is kind of fascinating. So we have confirm and deny here. I think I know what happened. So let's come here. Let's go to false. Let's set this to true. And the stuff is still in there. So that's new. So we'll delete that and say false. We'll delete this one too. And say false. So because the definition was still there, it was just hidden. the back end or the nodes themselves still pass information to OpenAI, and it responded in the way that we told it to respond when it was filled out. That was incorrect. So I deleted it, and now we're going to run it again. I still expect it to know which one of these to choose. I just don't expect this to respond to work. So let's try one more time. Okay, and then run it.
Hi, Michael. Would you like me to turn on the office lights?
No thanks. Perfect. So that aired out, but we can see what came through here. Great. So it basically just aired out. In terms of response, that's what I said, no thanks. So it did not respond with anything. It just simply told us no, and it just died. So this response does not work. And herein lies, let me go back. Herein lies, I guess, the difference between the advanced versions versus the simplified versions. With the advanced versions, you get to define every aspect as to what you expect. You can tell me no, and then also give me a response, also check the weather and turn on my toaster. Like, you can tell it to do a bunch of stuff and define all of that. With the simple version, you can't. You can just say, hey, this function you're supposed to call under these circumstances. Simply call it. And I would say that you can think of it like, if you understand coding, you have functions or routines, and sometimes functions take in parameters. So let's say you have a hello world function, and it takes in, let's say, a person's name. Then that function would have one parameter, and inside it would probably say, hey, say hello world, or hello, replace world with that person's name. But with the simplified, let's call it tools, then it takes no parameters. Like, that function takes in nothing. So that means you can't control what the output is. You can only control that the function was called. So in our case, it knows that it should not turn on the lights. So the deny just ran. Nothing happened with the lights. I'm going to show it to you with the other way around. So right now, let's clear all of this. I'm going to turn off my lights here, and I'm going to keep the simplified version. I'm going to run it, and you'll see what happens.
Hi, Michael. Would you like me to turn on the office lights?
Yes, please turn it on post haste, because that's how we talk. All right, it did it. It worked. So yeah, you have these different versions, and as you hear, it did not respond. It was just blank. Three different versions. You have the two versions B and C from the AI intent, and then you have version A, which I'm pretty excited about, which is Home Assistant, homegrown, baked in, no need for AI intent. I think this is fascinating. I think we're heading into a very interesting mode of creating automations. I want to explore more with this AI, with Home Assistant version. I do think that there's a lot of good use cases for it. I actually went with that one because I felt like it would have been faster, and technically it is. If you look back at this, I remember I mentioned that the complexity of this one, I rated it as 6. So we have the trigger, 1, we have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But then the complexity for these are exactly the same as each other, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's 2 more than what we need here. And it's 2 more because we have this call intent and this confirm. And for this one, all of this is kind of like baked into this one node, like into this one node. It does all of that within this one node. But pros and cons. I can do it with Home Assistant. You can do everything within that one node, but then you lose the flexibility of doing it at scale. Whereas with here, because it's split out, yeah, you have 2 extra nodes that you have to contend with, but now you can do this at scale and have other automations reference other automations, all because AI is able to split and separate those concerns. So again, I'm a software engineer by trade. This is the stuff that we think about. Like, when you're building things and you have to do it at scale, what's the pros and cons? What's the best way of setting things up and doing it? What is the maintenance of the, like, there's just so many aspects that you think about. So I again, this is the world I live in. I just wanted to share that with you. Hopefully, this may encourage you guys to go and try this out. I would love to hear your thoughts. I do have a video coming out that this automation is based off of. It's going to be kind of interesting because, and this is for you guys. I am I've been playing around with cameras and trying to like Frigate, like they've updated. I don't know how long ago they've updated, and so did Scripted. They both updated their ways of doing things, and I've been playing around with it and reintroducing it back into the system. And the stuff that I was able to build with it was kind of fascinating. And one of them was the idea of coming into a room, and then because it's a camera, it basically has the ability of three different sensors, right? As a camera, it's able to see, but that's by default. But then it has the ability of, let's say, a motion sensor where it can detect motion, like whether or not something is moving. It has the ability of, let's say, a ES presence sensor where it knows that such a person, like person X, is in the room, and ES Presence uses Bluetooth of a phone, so you can kind of trick it by giving someone else your phone and then moving into a room. It doesn't distinguish biologically, but it can distinguish at least through hardware. But using a camera, it's biological. Like it will see your face, it'll know that this is person X, and this is where that person is. So quite frankly, that's kind of awesome and terrifying, but neither here nor there. And then the last one is it has the ability of a millimeter wave sensor, because the downside with motion sensors is that if you stand still long enough, it stops seeing you. But with millimeter wave, it knows that you're still there. It knows that you're breathing. It watches you at night. With cameras, it's kind of the same. It knows that you're there, it sees you, and as long as it recognizes that you are a person with its object recognition or person detection, then yeah, you can stand still all you want. As long as you're not hiding, it'll find you. And I'm not saying that the camera outclasses all of these things all the time. That is, it's one piece of hardware. The point being is that using Scripted and Frigate combined with the camera, you're able to do really cool automations. And I was exploring that. Videos coming out soon, and this automation here is segues off of that concept. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think, especially about Home Assistant's. What do they call it? AI task. I think that's what they call it. Generate data. Let me know what you think about it. If you're actually using it, if it's useful or not. I would love to hear your thoughts. So have a good evening, good day, good night. Have fun.